The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, so my name is Nigel Bicknell and I'm head of ACCA Careers, and I'm delighted to welcome you today to our CV writing and careers workshop with guests from EY and CV writers. Now, our ACCA Talent Talk is designed to support all our ACCA affiliates and members across the Middle East, and it's part of our ongoing program of support across the region. So we really have a packed 1 hour agenda today. We have 3 speakers who will all be speaking for 15 minutes or so, and then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So I'm going to begin by talking about the ACCA Careers Job Board and how it can help you. Then I'll be passing over to Neville Rose, who'll be providing some CV writing tips. Now, Neville is actually the director of CV Writers, and he's worked in the recruitment world for over 20 years. He founded CV Writers almost 10 years ago, and then transferred his creative skills from writing job ads to writing CVs. And since then, CV Writers has gone on from strength to strength to CV writing services, helping job seekers around the world to improve their CVs, cover letters and LinkedIn profiles, and they're the official CV partner of ACCA Careers. And then Neville will pass over to Alex Ashenden, who's going to give a more sort of informal talent talk. Alex is the recruitment manager for MENA at EY, and he's responsible for leading the recruitment operations for EY's assurance practice across the region. He's been with EY for about 4 years and has over 12 years experience across the Middle East, working in many sectors. And then there are a few people in the background. We've got Helen Deakey, who normally leads our marketing across the region, and she's our producer today. So she'll be relaying questions, which you can either sort of post in the chat box, or if you want to speak, you can just raise your virtual hand, and she can allow you to speak. But then we've got Lawrence Moore, who's the platform manager for ACCA Careers, who will be able to answer any questions you have at the end of the webinar. And last but not least, we've got Hamad Khan, who's our business relationship exec, who can answer any specific questions on ACCA. So without any further ado, I will start talking about ACCA Careers and really how it can help you with employability, because it's our global digital hub for ACCA talent. And I really want to talk particularly about the benefits and value we bring to all of our affiliates and members, which can really help fulfill our core purpose of creating opportunity. And then I want to talk specifically about how we're providing our members and future members with career support during these unbelievably uncertain times we're all facing. But first, I want to just look at a bit of background. So, as I was saying, it's pretty much a horrible recruitment market out there. Jobs are down, unemployment is up, and I hate to say it, but there's a good chance things are actually going to get worse, I'm afraid. But on a much more positive note, there was a really good piece in the Guardian a few weeks ago from the Institute of Student Employers, which I think can cheer us up a bit. Basically, it said recruiters are still hiring. Despite what you've heard, they're still hiring, because they learned that in the last recession, they couldn't cut talent too deeply. And this was specifically true in the accountancy sector. The article goes on to say that video interviews are here to stay, and face-to-face career fairs may never actually return. For universities, they're under intense pressure to help students find jobs, and there are some economists who believe the rebound could actually be a bit quicker than some of us are thinking. But it was the final message I really liked. You can see there at the bottom. It said, every large firm needs accountants. And that's really made me think 2 things. First of all, in this crisis over the last few months, it's been really clear to me and many of us that actually it is the finance team who are really taking control when the trouble starts. And then secondly, that we're increasingly hearing about a flight to safety in terms of jobs choice, because people are really beginning to realize that accountancy, it's not only a reliable profession, but it's also very flexible and teaches you broad business skills, which are incredibly valuable for the future. So I said the market is down, but we still have jobs on the ACCA Careers site. In fact, we've got lots of them. We continue to have over 100,000 global jobs every month. And in fact, last month we had 140,000. And this is really because we work very closely with employers who are posting their jobs directly on our site. And here, as you can see, surrounding our Middle East hub, I've got various employer logos who use our site because it works well. For example, on the left-hand side, you can see the Big Four who use us across the world and specifically in the Middle East. And they're very satisfied and they place lots of ads, job ads with us because they get a very good response, often over 50 applications per role. Now, in terms of employability, we offer a range of benefits. So we aim to be a one-stop shop for all ACCA roles around the world. And we source vacancies across the globe via employers and partner feeds in every country. And so this enables us to provide our users with a breadth of jobs in every region, at every level, and in every sector. So we've got roles from audit to tax, and we cover sectors from banking to transport. In fact, we have over 1.5 million jobs a year, which makes us the largest specialist job board for accountants in the world. So this is another way that ACCA is leading the profession. And this is backed up with lots of careers advice content to help you with lifelong career progression. And we're also running a series of virtual career fairs to connect employers with future-ready talent, such as yourself. Now, a key point to note is our service is free to advertise to ACCA employers, and it generates over 500,000 job applications every year. So it really works well for everyone. And in fact, there's no other job board which can copy this specialist service, which is uniquely designed for our members and future members. So let's take you on a little tour of our site. This is our homepage, split into two parts. And as you can see, it really highlights the specialism and benefits of the site in terms of jobs and content. So you can see there just on the left-hand side, you can see we've got pictures of the various regions which demonstrate our global reach. And then we've got our Middle East hub on the bottom left of those images. Then we have recommended jobs for you. So these are personalized roles just for you based on your last job search. We have featured jobs and featured recruiters who we work with. Then we always feature our brand themes, and obviously our brand theme at the moment is supporting our stakeholders during the coronavirus. We also have competency framework job profiles, salary info, and other very useful employability content. And then at the bottom there on the right-hand side, you can just see we have various links to our CPD, to our thought leadership. For example, there's a feature there on accountancy roles in the 2020s, just talking about what the future jobs are going to be like. And then on the bottom right, we have quick job links for our students, affiliates, and members going to jobs with relevant skills for those various levels. This is a really important slide because it's about job alerts, and this is a really simple way it's really easy to sign up, and then the job alerts come directly to you. It's very easy. All you have to do is do a search on our site, just then go to the top of those search results and click on Create Alert. Then you'll get a pop-up, which you can see in the middle. You just put in your email address, click OK, and then you will be sent. Let's say you did the search for finance analyst, you'll then be sent finance analyst roles direct to your inbox. But if you want to tailor your job alerts, there's a link at the top of the page where you can add in extra job filters to make the job alerts a bit more precise. And we're sending out between 20 and 30,000 of these, so it's a great service we offer. Now, moving on to careers advice, the site's really, further tailored to our users with our careers content, and we've got over now 300 pieces of careers content. So it's a fantastic resource. We've got articles and videos just produced with our users in mind. For example, how to write a financial CV, useful tips on working from home, how to return to work after lockdown, And then we've got videos, particularly from Dr. Rob Young, who's our talent doctor. So the site's increasingly becoming like a sort of online career coaching center. Then on the right, something I wanted to point out, we're now also offering free career and CV reviews via our selected partners, such as Neville, which I'm sure he will be talking a little bit more about this in his section. Now, I think the best way to really demonstrate how we can really bring alive our employability proposition is just to look at the jobs themselves. So as you can see, we carry roles from which cover every type to suit our members and future members. But also they demonstrate the diversity of commercial, public good, and wider value creation roles, which focus more on purpose and sustainability as much as profit, and which the qualification leads to. So for example, we've got global jobs, for example, with Apple in Ireland. We've got charity or trustee roles like this one in Vietnam. Trainee accountants, internships like this one in Lagos, where you'll learn technical and personal skills on the job. And then on the bottom right, we've got this new breed of job, which requires both digital and finance skills. And we're hearing a lot more about these. For example, this digital value specialist working for DBS. Now, promoting these roles helps make ACCA and the broader profession more attractive and accessible, as saying again, as a diverse and reliable career of choice. Now, to reinforce this message, we now have a dedicated digital hub. And this really has two types of roles on it. So it has digital roles in public practice and corporates, for example, a digital finance transformation lead at a company like Accenture, or it has more traditional roles, but working for industry-leading digital companies. For example, we had a business advisory role at Virgin Media. Now, also on this page, you can see we have profiles of ACCA members in exciting digital roles, and these then link up with our new career zones, which explain these new career fields and the skills that they need. For example, we've got one called business transformer, a role that's going to become even more important in the future. Now, something new and different we're now doing, in some ways this is our secret weapon, is we're now dynamically feeding relevant jobs from ACCA Careers onto relevant page content on ACCA Global, our main content website. And we're doing this via Jobs widgets. So Job widgets, an example of that is the widget there, or the box you can see for BDO. So for example, if you're looking at our competency framework at one of our 120 skills profiles, let's say you're looking at a sort of tech risk profile, you'll now actually see tech risk jobs on the jobs widget next to that. Now this has many benefits. It allows us to stand out from rival bodies. It attracts the all-important passive job seeker. Users are kept posted with the latest relevant roles, and it's increased our global traffic to careers by 50%. But above all, it creates a direct link between the qualification and rewarding careers. So are users finding the site effective, and are they satisfied with our service? Well, the feedback has been really positive so far, especially about the breadth of global reach and roles. And it shows I think it shows we're really helping. And then we've got one there. I'll just give you some time to read those quotes. But even one at the bottom who benefited from our free CV review service, which Neville offers. And on the right, you can see we've got some leading employer brands where our members work, which I think highlights that many of our members are reaching the top of the tree in either practice or in commerce. So turning now to employers. So ACCA Careers is also a benefit for our employer network when they're recruiting financial talent. And here are some more examples of employers promoting jobs and brands on the ACCA Careers site. But it's not always the usual suspects. Here I'm featuring, we've got Amazon on the site, and we've also got Next, the retailer, who have a mini site on our job board. You can see that at the bottom. And the site, again, is getting great feedback, even from a member who took advantage of our free listings offer for members. Now, having a good site is only sort of half the story. It really needs to be promoted to the right people at the right time and in the right place. And so we're now really increasing our external promotion across all the main channels. For example, LinkedIn, Facebook, across paid search, and on display on targeted sites. And we're also using our own internal media, whether that be websites or newsletters, both centrally and locally. Now, the good news about all this focus on product development and promotion, it's having a really positive effect. So our users are over 30% up in the last month to 136,000. That's just in the month. And I think that really shows the wide need for our jobs and support. But on the flip side, it means we're still useful to employers because we have the talent that they need. And that's why we're attracting more and more employers every week. And then on the right hand, you can see our local performance is really strong for users and applications. And in terms of jobs, we're keeping pretty flat, which anyone who knows who's working in this market at the moment will know that's absolutely a fantastic performance. And that table at the bottom just shows we have users and also jobs across the whole region. Now, just to back this up, here are the latest results from our employer survey. Again, I won't read through all of these because you can read through them. But suffice to say, just looking at that first one, the number of employers agreeing that we help them recruit talent has gone up year on year, and they're really finding the site easy to use and the quality of our candidates really good. So, final slide. I thought I'd really end with something a little bit different, and this is a quick peek at our plans for the future. And it's all about really being more than just a job board. We want to become an employability network, joining up all the ACCA assets, targeting you with more personalized and more relevant jobs, and doing this across our social communities and the ACCA Global site, looking at more career progression tools and video content with skills and advice from people like Neville, who's featured there in the video. And then on the bottom right, we're now running career fairs in every market. We recently ran one in the Middle East, which was a great success, and I'm sure we'll do one again in the near future. We're also running a global employability webinar on the 13th of August. So this will be almost like a larger version of what you're going to see today. And again, Neville will be part of the panel on that date. So in summary, everything you can see here is all designed to strengthen our employability service to you. So really to help you to be able to think ahead, whatever the business environment in the future. Right, thanks very much for that. Now, I will now pass over to Neville. So I will change the presenter and pass over to Neville, who is our panelist. Neville, let me know when you've
right.
got
that, Nigel.
Okay.
Thank you. Some really good insight there into how you can get the best out of the ACCA Careers services. So hopefully you can see my screen now. So my name's Neville and I'm from CV Writers, and we're a partner to ACCA Careers, and we provide a range of services like CV writing, LinkedIn profiles and cover letters. And in this short presentation today, I'm going to show you how to create an impactful CV. So the things that we're going to look at are firstly the importance of planning before you write. We're then going to look at how you can put yourself in the shoes of the reader to write the CV almost from an external perspective. How to keep your CV short, to focus your CV on achievements and outcomes. We're then going to look at how you can get your CV through applicant tracking systems, or the dreaded ATS, as it's known to a lot of job seekers nowadays. Before finally looking at a couple of different CV structures that you may consider, and some typical finance competencies that employers within finance and accountancy will recruit by. So firstly, some considerations before you start putting pen to paper, or more likely start typing away at the keyboard. I think people do underestimate the importance of a CV. When you think about it, your CV is very likely to be the first communication that you have with a potential new employer. So as we all know, those first impressions are very, very important. So therefore, how the CV is presented and the content within it are very much going to define your future relationship with that employer. So getting it right first time is very, very important. You need to think through, firstly, what types of roles are you targeting with the CV? Are you looking at financial analyst type roles or other types of specialism? And this is important in order to make the right connection with that type of job. Then you need to think about, well, what are my strongest selling points and how can I structure my CV accordingly? Because you want to try and get all the most important information on the first page of your CV. And the reason for that, quite simply, is that that is where most attention will be focused on. When you write a CV, you don't, of course, write a CV for yourself. You write a CV in order to elicit a positive reaction on the part of the employer. And that positive reaction is about calling you to interview. And every recruiter is looking to recruit for a specific role. And therefore, the more that you understand about that role, firstly, and the more that your CV can connect with what those requirements, the better that your CV is going to perform. So you need to write your CV from the audience's point of view. So how do we get it right? Well, the first thing to do is to read the job description. But more importantly is to read the person specification. As you'll probably know, most job descriptions come in two parts. There's the job description and then the person specification, which details the criteria that that employer will be using to assess the CVs. And it's your job to match the CV to the person specification as closely as you can. Your CV also needs to be personal and original to you, so you mustn't align it to the detriment of being authentic to yourself. It's important to tailor your CV for every application, quite simply because every job description will be written in a slightly different way. And so your CV is all about giving confidence to the reader in calling you to interview. There's been lots and lots of research done on how people read CVs, and they're fairly unanimous in their thinking, and that is they don't give very long at all. Most of them say less than 30 seconds. Some researchers even said less than 5 or 6 seconds will be spent reading a CV, and this seems, a ridiculously short amount of time, especially, the amount of time that you as a job seeker will spend on getting the CV right. But nevertheless, we have to factor in this short window of opportunity with which you're going to have to impress an employer. So given this short amount of time, there's a little point in having lots and lots of detail in your CV, so certainly keep it to 2 pages. A 2-page CV or even a 1-page CV provides an ideal framework because it provides just the right amount of information to whet the appetite of the reader without overwhelming them with too much detail. Use bullet points within your CV. That helps to break up information into easily digestible chunks. Use as few words as possible. Now, this is very different to writing an essay or a report or something like this. A CV is really getting points over as quickly and as directly as you can. And it may seem a bit silly to say, make sure there are no spelling mistakes. However, again, research shows over 50% of CVs contain spelling errors. And again, when you consider the amount of online dictionaries and spell checks available, it seems incredible that so many CVs get this wrong. So make sure that you don't. The answer to that, of course, is not to rely on spell check, but to get someone else to proofread the CV for you, because if you become very familiar with a document, you can become blind to the mistakes within it. So the easy solution to that is to give it to a family or friend or a colleague to read. And you want to aim for about 750 words, something in that region, in a 2-page CV. Now, in your CV, a lot of people tend to rely on just simply describing the job in terms of responsibilities or a list of duties. Some people even copy and paste their job description. But the problem with that, of course, is that a job description by its very nature is very generic and very dry. It doesn't tell the reader about your experience within an employment. And that's important. That's what a CV is all about. It's all about what you've done in that role. Show the difference that you have made. Because remember, it's not what we do that counts, it's the results. So you also want to focus on the outcomes of your endeavours. So each employment in your CV should tell its own story, because even if you've held the same job title for several different employers, the actual experience within each of those employments will be very different. It's important to support your achievements with facts and figures, and our recruiters love facts and figures because it's irrefutable evidence of you performing well. And of course, most actions, most activities that we do can be derived to a fact or a figure in some way, in terms of decreasing the time to do something, perhaps saving costs or increasing profitability. Applicant tracking systems, or ATS systems, are used by many employers, and they're also used by job boards as well. They work in a similar way to search engines like Google. So if you were to type in a phrase in Google, it will rank particular websites in order it thinks of preference, or in terms of being aligned to your search term. So ATS systems work by an employer will upload a job description and a person specification. Applicant CVs will be uploaded onto that same system, and the ATS system, using algorithms, will then rank each of the CVs it thinks in order of suitability for that role. So they're analysing your CV against a specific job description. It's estimated that ATS systems filter out 70% of CVs before they ever get read by a human. Now that's incredible, and so these are very fierce filters. So it's vitally important to get your CV through these ATS systems. So how do we do this? Well, unfortunately, there's no magic wand that we can wave to do that. But they work by looking at concentrations of key terms and phrases. So quite simply, the best way of getting your CV through is to read through the job description and the person specification, to identify the key phrases and terms within that, and then to mirror those in your CV. And you should do that naturally by weaving in these words and phrases throughout the CV, but you can also include certain sections like a key skills section where you can put in specific terms and phrases aligned to that particular job. And again, this shows the importance of a tailored approach. So tailoring your CV for each and every role that you apply for. We're now going to quickly look at the two most common types of CV structure. So firstly, there's the reverse chronological type CV. Now this is the most common one, probably the one that you're most familiar with and will most likely use. And the second version that we'll look at is a skills-based CV. So whilst the reverse chronological is used for probably 90% of job seekers, the skills-based CV can be ideal for graduates, perhaps you don't have much experience in a particular profession, or if you're looking to change your career, perhaps midway through your career, because it's good for demonstrating transferable skills. So firstly, have a quick look here at the reverse chronological CV. So what you'll see here is your name and contact details at the beginning, followed by a short professional profile. And that professional profile should be in the form of a short paragraph, 4 or 5 lines. And this acts to do two things. Firstly, to position you in line with the role that you're applying for. So try to mirror that job title in the first line of your CV. It then gives a brief description and a brief insight into you as an individual. So what personal qualities will you bring that will enable you to succeed in that role? But what you then see is that the majority of space in this 2-page version is taken up by the career, and then you go backwards in time, hence the name reverse chronological. So you generally want to focus and have more information on the most recent roles and then less information going further back in time, because of course employers generally want to know about what you've been doing most recently. at the end of this CV, you'll have professional development or memberships, like your ACCA membership qualifications should go in there, together with other academic qualifications. So the other CV structure that you may want to consider, in fact, it's worth having a look on ACCA because there is a downloadable CV template that you can use from there, is this skills-based CV. And what we can see here is that this starts off in the same way as the reverse chronological. So we start off with name and contact details, got that short professional profile, but we then have an extended key skills section. So what we're looking to do here is to demonstrate transferable skills. So you want to look at the competencies that are required for a particular role that you're applying for, and then use those as headings, and under each of those headings you can give 2 or 3 examples of how, where and when you've demonstrated that competency. And the good thing about this structure is you can use examples from any area of your life. So they could be, for instance, report writing you may have done as part of a project at university, or perhaps team leadership, you've been a captain of a sports side or something like this. So there are, you can use instances and examples from any part of your life, particularly at these early stages when you may have less work experience. Then you can see after the extended key skills section, we have the career history section. That's worthwhile considering. So what kinds of competencies or skills do employers use? And there's a really good section on the ACCA website for this, which has the typical kinds of competencies that employers will be looking for in the world of finance and accountancy. So here are a few of those. So we've got things like commercial acumen, attention to detail, analytical determination, drive. You can see already that yes, these can be applied specifically to competencies within finance, but in many other areas of your life. And so those can be used within an extended key skills section to make sure that you can demonstrate those points to an employer. So that's the end of this presentation, which I hope you found helpful. I'm now going to hand over to Alex from EY. Hopefully I can do that here. Over to you, Alex. Hopefully you've got that okay. Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, coming through loud and clear.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Neville, for that. That was quite interesting. I think I learned a couple of things myself there. Okay, well, look, just as a short intro, just to, I suppose, remind everyone who I am, my role here at EY is really to oversee the recruitment for our assurance practice in the region. We probably hire about 500 to 600 experienced professionals on a yearly basis. Obviously, that's probably going to be a bit smaller this year. So what talent does EY look for? As an assurance practice, we've got a couple of different practices within assurance. So we do look for a mixture of skills and experience. These range really from financial audit to internal audits, compliance, financial and non-financial consulting, and business transformation. These are just sort of some of the key skills and experiences we look for. As you can see, they're a little bit varied depending on the practice that we're recruiting for. The majority of the recruitment is really done in our audit practice. So obviously that's heavily focused on external financial audit. Now, as Neville said, a lot of the information that he's provided around, having the right type of layout on your CV, having the right information, really having it concise and accurate, easy to read. I can't stress enough how important that is. As he also mentioned, a lot of CVs do get reviewed by recruiters and through the applicant tracking system. So that's having a good CV laid out in the way he mentioned is really essential as a first step. Going through that interview process is also obviously quite important. The relevance of the job you're applying to is such an important factor as well, which a lot of people kind of forego, certainly here in the region from my experience. So I think the first thing, the first bit of advice I would give is really apply to relevant jobs. Now, I know that sounds maybe quite self-explanatory and a bit of an obvious thing to state, but you'd be surprised the volume of applicants that we receive that really, aren't really even meeting the minimum job requirements. So again, the advice would be thoroughly review the JD and the person requirements to really understand if you're actually hitting, 70, 80% plus of those requirements before you actually go through that application process. And the reason I say that is because, applying to a large number of roles, if you're not doing that self-screening yourself, you result in a high number of rejections, and that can actually have quite a negative impact on your own morale and confidence when you are applying or potentially going through an interview process. So as obvious as that does sound, I think it's a really, really good thing to start with. Standing out, in this competitive marketplace, in this industry that you're all in, is a difficult thing. I think after you've gone through that initial application process and you're meeting that minimum requirements, I think being able to showcase additional skills and experience on your CV will certainly help you get through that application process. So anything that's outside the standard requirement, something like team leadership, mentoring, internal projects, or maybe supporting other functions or practices within your firm. Those type of additional skills and experiences will support and help your application. That would obviously help an employer like EY, for example, look at potential future growth of you as a candidate, and that's something that would be an additional selling point for you. I think having a strong social media profile is also really, really important. I'm namely referring to LinkedIn because that's really the prime tool that we use from a recruitment perspective. A lot of kind of fact checking and is done using LinkedIn. If we get applications and there's ever a question mark, one of the first places we will go to look is LinkedIn to really understand how accurate the CV is, if it's up to date, if everything's reflecting correctly. So having that strong social media profile and something that mirrors your CV and profile very closely, I think is also essential. Getting through the application process, and if you are able to make it to interview stage, going beyond the standard technical competencies that of course you're going to need to have, and being able to answer those types of questions concisely, you've really got to be a good communicator. That's something that is going to still, even today, stand you out in the crowd against other candidates that are applying. This isn't a new thing. This has been around for a very long time. For years, people say be a good communicator. That still holds true today. Be able to articulate yourself well. Be mindful of how your message may be received by others. That's also quite important. And be an active listener. A lot of people, in my experience, they're very eager in the interviews. They're sometimes excited. They sometimes don't listen so well to the questions, and that obviously can result in responses maybe not being what the interviewer is looking for. So that active listening skill is so important when you make it to interview stage and you're actually speaking to people that are going to help make hiring decisions. These are probably some of the key things I would suggest, certainly from an assurance recruitment perspective. Now, they all seem quite basic. Using a phrase that was mentioned earlier, there's no real magic wand to kind of put you on the top of a recruitment list when you're hiring a large number of candidates, and you have a very large talent pool that do meet a lot of the minimum requirements. So I think these are just a couple of little areas that really could help you stand out. Obviously, your work experience is going to contribute to that as well. I mean, by this point, if you're applying now, that's something that you've obviously already done. But standing out in that regard would obviously be in terms of having worked with large international firms, firms that people know the type of work they do and is obviously similar. That's pretty much all the advice I can give in terms of standing out through the application and interview process. So I'm open to any questions. I'm not sure if we have the functionality here. If there are any questions from the panel, I'm happy to discuss those with you and help wherever I can. If there's anything specific you'd like to ask.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, this is Helen. We have a lot of questions that have come in for everybody across the board, so I will do my best to facilitate these. The first one is around EY and their hiring candidates that doesn't have any Big Four experience. This is coming from Mohammed. So he said, what is the process around that? Do EY actually hire candidates without previous experience?
So, I mean, my role is overseeing experienced hire recruitment. So if you mean people with no prior experience in Big Four, the answer is yes, we do hire people outside of the Big Four firms. Obviously, it's dependent very much on the role and the requirements of each individual office and the market that they're servicing. But quite simply, yes, we do hire people outside of the Big Four firms.
Great, great. A gentleman has mentioned that he has applied for numerous occasions, specifically to EY and other organisations, but he doesn't get his applications noticed. So I think the point to this gentleman is about standing out. And one of the comments was around that he's got 30 years of experience. How does he actually condense that into 2 pages to make it stand out for somebody like EY? So I think that's a mixture of both Neville and of you, Alex. He's applied before, he's not had any luck. He's got 30 years of experience. He's obviously sending in a CV on multiple pages. What would you suggest his next steps would be to make himself stand out? Neville, did you want to answer that one on 30 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 30 years of experience. Wow. Generally speaking, the same amount of time is still going to be read whether a page CV or a 2-page CV. So there's simply no point in including lots and lots of details still. I would recommend keeping that CV to 2 pages, focusing the information probably on the last 5 or so years of the career, because that's generally going to be more aligned to the roles that they are applying for. Not just on the role and the responsibilities, but to demonstrate achievements, and that is absolutely vital. Show the difference that you've made in the roles. Also, to include the right key terms and phrases to help the CV get through those ATS systems, because they again will be used to filter the CV in the first place, and to make sure that that CV is tailored for the specific role that you're applying for. It can come as a great frustration, something that Alex mentioned a bit earlier as well. It can be frustrating using a CV, one generic CV, firing it off for lots and lots of jobs and then not getting a reply. It's much better to spend more time on fewer applications. So in this instance, I would recommend spend the time on tailoring that CV, make sure that the achievements stand out, keep the CV short, and I think that would certainly help. I don't know what you think, Alex.
Well, first of all, I agree with everything you said, Neville. Thank you. That was really helpful. To the gentleman who posed the question, look, obviously I don't have visibility of the type of roles you're applying for, but I think initially, in the 4 years I've been with EY, you know, the level of experience that we're looking for 99% of the roles that I've recruited for range between 3 years and at the most, absolute most, 20. So I think from that perspective, saying that you've got 30 years of experience, that's such a huge wealth, such a huge amount of experience that I've never actually come across a role where that's certainly a requirement, not yet anyway. So I think, you know, there's certainly something there. Maybe potentially the roles you're applying for are not aligned with, you know, the amount of experience you do have. Again, you know, as I mentioned, I don't have visibility of that, you know, those types of roles you're applying for. I think the other thing worth mentioning is, and I get this question a lot from a lot of candidates that I speak to on a day-to-day basis. A lot of candidates ask me they very similar question. They say, look, I've got 8, 10, 12, 15 years of experience, and I've applied for this role, and I've not even been considered for an interview or an assessment. And now why is that? So as I mentioned, a lot of the roles that we recruit for here in EY are generally, we're looking for people with really, generally speaking, less than 10 years of experience in a lot of the roles. Most companies, not just EY, will focus on hiring obviously the right talent, but we're looking for candidates and talent that are at the right level for any given position we're recruiting for. So for example, if we're looking for a senior auditor, we're usually looking for someone that's got between roughly 4 and 6 years of professional experience in audits with the relevant qualifications. Now, if I've had applicants that have 10, 12 years of experience that have applied, and my response to them is very much, look, we've got to hire people that are at the right level in their careers for that position. If we're not doing that, it does have an impact on employee retention, employee engagements, because coming in with, if someone's applying for that role and they've done it before and they've got 10 years of experience and they're coming in working at a senior auditor level, there's going to be question marks around how engaged they're going to be. Is it going to lead to a bit of boredom in the role? Could it lead to problems with retention within the firm? Are they really going to be fully, engaged and bought into that role if it's something they've done for such a long time? So that's not, as I say, not just an EY best practice. I know a lot of firms do want to hire people who are actually at the right level for the role they're recruiting for. So as tough as that is to say, that could be a factor in some of the rejections you may have had, unfortunately.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And like you say, it's very difficult for Alex to comment on individual circumstances, especially as he's probably not seen the CVs directly. So he'll try and filter the questions as best he can on that. One of the other questions we had around LinkedIn, and it again is for both of you, around recruiters looking at LinkedIn, and you did touch on this, Alex and Neville, and about having the tailored version of your CV represented on LinkedIn. So the question is it really, really important to have your LinkedIn profile tailored for every single CV you sent out? Or how do you generically make your LinkedIn look consistent to the CVs that you're sending out for personalized job applications? It's a difficult one because you can't update your LinkedIn profile every 5 minutes.
I'll start off. Yeah, absolutely right. By its very nature, you can only have one LinkedIn profile, so it has to work for all the different applications. But that said, that shouldn't stop you tailoring your CV. That's the advantage of having an individual CV and being able to tailor that. But it would be impractical to start to adapt your LinkedIn profile every time you apply for a role, because LinkedIn profile isn't just about applying for roles anyway. That's only one of many functions that it has. But the secret is just to make sure that it captures all the key terms and phrases that are relevant for the roles that you're applying for. So for instance, in the you can see your job titles. Now we know that LinkedIn weight certain sections more heavily than others for the algorithms that recruiters use when they search for relevant profiles. And the two sections to focus on are the professional headline at the top and the summary underneath that. So if you were to use 2 or 3 of your target job titles in your headline and make sure that those target job titles are also included in the summary, then you're going to help optimize that LinkedIn profile for the various different roles that you may be applying for. And there wouldn't then be the need to kind of keep going in and adapting it. Alex, I don't know if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that as well. I mean, the LinkedIn profile obviously is really a bit of a snapshot of your profile. You want to keep it high level, providing a little bit of detail, but you don't have to go into extensive detail on your LinkedIn profile. So even if your job application has a CV which is tailored to that specific job, and I was to then go on LinkedIn and have a look at your profile, I could see, generally speaking, that it mirrors your profile. It wouldn't raise any question marks, right? If there were discrepancies in the key pieces of information, that's what would then lead to doubt in my mind and potentially not move forward with the profile.
Perfect. What's the etiquette around a potential candidate seeing that you've looked at their LinkedIn profile and directly messaging you? That's one of the questions.
Perfectly acceptable. I'd expect nothing less, to be honest.
Great, great. In this region, I'm not sure if Nigel and Neville are aware, but it's become common practice to pop your photo on your CV. And one of the questions here is it really important that we put a profile picture on our CV?
I'll have a stab at answering that. I'm not sure. I mean, we write lots of CVs for people around the world. I'm not sure that it has become more popular. I'm not sure what that's based on. Generally speaking, there's a move away from including CV. And the reason for that is once you include a photo, you can induce subconscious bias on the part of the reader. And so without even knowing it, the reader will be influenced in their decision making by how you look. And surely you want your CV to be assessed on your ability to do the job, not what colour eyes or what colour hair or what sex you are. So, I would always advocate not including a photo on a CV, or in fact any personal information like date of birth, or because you want to be assessed purely on your ability to do the job. And if you introduce any information like that, but particularly photos, then you're giving the reader an opportunity to influence their decision in a way that is actually not relevant to your ability to do the job. But I think that generally speaking across the world there is a move away. Certainly in Europe, most countries don't accept photos. Only in Germany, but even then, I think it's acceptable to include a photo or not. It's not like your CV would be rejected for not including a photo. But I would advocate not including a photo because for that kind of for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah, I'd fully agree. I'd fully agree with that as well. Remove all forms of unconscious bias. Give yourself the best opportunity. There's really no need for a photograph, in my opinion.
Fabulous. I'm glad you said that. Cover letters then. Let's talk cover letters. Do you read them, Alex? Do you need them? I know they say we should do them, but the question here is how many people actually read them, and should I be providing a cover letter when I submit my CV?
Honestly speaking, I very rarely read a cover letter. It's only if there's something that's unclear, but it's very, very rare in that initial application process that myself or a recruiter would read a cover letter, if I'm honest.
And just to add to that, we did some research a few years ago which shows that there's a real diversity of opinions on cover letters, where some employers do still value them as part of the process, other employers don't. It even comes down to perhaps an individual recruiter's view on them. So I think where it's asked for, you should certainly include a cover letter, because it is a further opportunity to market your expertise. And of course, a cover letter should be, completely bespoke and adapted to that particular job. But where it's not asked for, of course, you do stand a chance of it then not being read. So, there's generally no harm in including one, but it just may simply not actively help your application in a way. So I think that just comes down to the particular requirements for that application. If they're asking for a cover letter, you should include one. If it doesn't, then it can be optional, or they will just be using the CV.
Okay, great. We have so many questions coming in and I'm conscious of time, so I'm just going to go through the ones that I feel that we need to really give some attention to. There is one around the jobs and the availability of opportunities within the financial sectors. And I guess it's for Nigel and for Alex around, there are very few opportunities for actual financial advisors. Most companies, including the Big Four, look for auditors and accountants. Is there a specific reason? Am I limiting myself by calling myself a financial advisor?
Alex, can you have a financial advisor? Sounds to me like a personal financial advisor. So
Yes.
that might be an immediate confusion. I mean, obviously we are taking jobs, as I said, directly from employers. So we're taking whatever they are posting, or getting feeds of jobs which have the ACCA need for a qualification primarily. But is that your thinking too, Alex, that financial advisor, there's an air of confusion about that?
Yeah, I do think that's partly the case. I also think, I mean, again, so in 4 years with EY, we've that's a financial advisor role. So that's one element. We don't look for those specific skill sets, or we haven't done historically. If you have experience that's more broad and outside of just financial advisory, then yeah, definitely put that, obviously include that in your CV, in your profile. But I think it's purely down to the fact, from my perspective, from an EY perspective, in the last 4 years, we've never hired a financial advisor per se. We're really looking for auditors, consultants, advisors, like accounting advisors, otherwise known as consultants. So that might be the reason for not having so much success, certainly from an EY perspective.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I think this may need to be the last one, and it talks around discussing achievements and outcomes without breaching or violating the confidentiality that you have with your original or current employer. How does that work on a CV? So I'm guessing he's talking about the achievements around numbers, facts, and figures. Neville, you mentioned that in your session about the achievements. So how does he put that on his CV, or without breaking his confidentiality?
Well, again, without knowing what the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement may be, or the confidentiality, I can't comment on that instance. But what I would say, and what I would encourage, is being as open as possible as you can in your CV, because the job seeking is inherently, a selfish business. You want to do everything that you can to demonstrate to the reader your ability to do the job, and only certain facts and figures would be contrary to the terms and conditions of your employment. Most figures, certainly relating to profitability, would be published anyway. So whilst being mindful of that information, you don't want to upset what kind of information will upset them. But it is a consideration, absolutely. But I think that you just need to look at whatever facts or figures you are, but that will vary. But in a more general sense, the more open you are, and the more that you can express your achievements in facts and figures, the better it's going to look in your CV. But yeah, certainly if you are subject to a non-disclosure agreement, then one needs to be mindful of that. And there are other ways that you can describe things in a way that won't break that non-disclosure agreement. For instance, if you're working for a client organization and you couldn't name that client organization, then you could talk about work with a client in a particular industry, in some such kind of language that where you wouldn't be breaking that agreement, but you could just give a flavor or an idea to the reader about what that organization looked like.
From my perspective, if you weren't able to include that type of financial information on your CV in your application, it wouldn't discount you from consideration. That would be something that the recruiter and the recruitment team would work to. That would be information they would work to obtain from you during the interview and selection process. So, I doubt it would rule you out of being considered if you were meeting all the other criteria. So I don't think it would have a huge detrimental impact on your application, to be honest.
Great, great. Like I said, we have a huge amount of questions, and I would like to direct everybody to the careers website. Alex, people are asking about internships at EY. Could you give a quick summary of where they can find the availability of internships? I know we have it on our careers website, which Nigel will close up on in a second. But in terms of the MENA region, is there somewhere specifically that they can go to now, straight after this session, to go and take a look at for some internship opportunities?
Well, the information you've provided around the careers website is correct. That would be the first port of call for anyone that's interested in an internship or any other form of opportunity. So please go to that, have a look. Can't know that there aren't any opportunities advertised, purely because we won't be advertising those till later in the year. Probably another to 2 months until we start advertising those roles. So really, that's the best port of call. Keep an eye on the website. I don't want to go through online and just send messages, so to speak. And look, we have a tracking system purely because
reason for doing it, there are lots of jobs there, as I was saying, lots of jobs and internships, lots of really useful careers content and obviously links to Neville's company. And then finally, as I said, we'll be running our global employability webinar in the middle of August, on the 13th of August. So please look out for messages to that. And best of thing is, I've pretty on to close. Yes, best of luck with your careers. And just that final message is, ACCA, we're always here to help you. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Okay, bye-bye.
thanks very much, gents.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.